Hello, I'm Michael Wybrow, and in this video I'm going to give you a brief introduction to touch input and gestures for iOS apps. So the iPhone, the first iPhone back in 2007 was the first consumer device to really make use of multi-touch interaction. So since then, this has become a very, very standard part of mobile devices, and it's pretty rare to find a phone that isn't touch-based and makes use of multi-touch. So what do we mean by multi-touch? Well, multi-touch is basically the ability for iOS devices to track a number of independent touch points. So as you touch the tip of your finger down onto the screen, the phone tracks that touch until you let go, and it can track a number of these, hence multi-touch. So along with this tracking information, we can recognize various gestures like pinch to zoom, where the user touches 2 points and then brings those points close together, or touches in 2 places and makes those points further apart, or a swipe where a user taps on the screen, drags and lets go. So how can you track touches? Well, UI View Controller conforms to a class called UI Responder, and UI Responder provides a number of methods for tracking touches that occur on a view. So because all of the view controllers we write all extend UI View Controller, it means we're always able to use these methods to track touches. So what you can do here is there's a number of different methods, things like touches began, touches moved, touches end, touches cancelled, and what you get from this is a set of UI touch objects that each has each represents one unique fingertip, if you like, touching the screen. And then, as these move, you can track them, and you could do that to implement a drawing app or something like that. So what you probably want to do, rather than tracking individual touches, unless you're doing something low level or implementing some kind of drawing app, is to just make use of gestures. So basically a gesture is a pattern of touches, and what you want is for a gesture to perform a particular action. In the same way, in the past, we've tapped on a button and triggered an IB action. In this case, we have the performance of a gesture triggering an action. So they can be gestures can be quite complex, or they can be precise interactions allowing direct manipulation. So for example, if you're dragging an object, then that object can be drawn and follow your finger, or if you're pinching to expand a photo, then that photo can be resized to match the gesture that you're performing. Some examples of the sort of gestures that can be recognized are things like drag, double tap, long press, pinch, either open or close, rotate, swipe. So, how are the gestures actually recognized? Well, iOS has UI gesture recognizers, and these watch touches and trigger actions, and we can create these gesture recognizers either using standard built-in gesture recognizers or our own custom ones, and we can attach these to the view hierarchy, and they watch for these gestures to be performed on a particular view, and you can also set up actions, connections. In the same way that we've connected buttons to our code, we can do the same thing with gesture recognizers. And these can trigger IB actions. And when this happens, the IB action gets past the particular gesture recognizer that triggered it. So if you have multiple gesture recognizers triggering the same action, you can have a look at the particular gesture recognizer and see, what type of action it was recognizing. So that's the oh yeah, so what does this look like in terms of one of these actions? It would be something like this: handle rotation. It gets given the recognizer, in this case a UI rotation gesture recognizer, which, as you could expect, has properties that represent the details of that gesture, in this case a rotation property. And we could do something simple like find out which view the recognizer was operating on, and then apply a transform to that view, which we calculate by taking its existing transform and rotating it by a particular rotation. In this case, interestingly, we set the rotation value of the recognizer back to 0. And you might wonder why that happens. Well, this is just because this is a continuous gesture, as in as the user is performing this gesture, this action is going to get called multiple times, not just once at its conclusion. So as a result, we set the rotation back to 0 each time to avoid cumulatively growing the rotation amount. Otherwise, as you say, perform a rotation, the thing would be spinning increasingly fast, like some kind of fan, which we don't want. We want it to, always with gestures, we want the transformation that we apply in the user interface to map as closely as possible to the action that the user performs, which is what will feel most natural. So that's the basics of touches and gesture recognizers. Thanks for watching.